I love me some Legend of Zelda, and that's no BS. Nowadays, it is no big deal for a video game system to go online. There's been modem connections for game consoles going all the way back to the Atari 2600. In the 16-bit era, it was far from commonplace. However, in Japan, a satellite TV network teamed up with Nintendo to make a product, an add-on for the Super Famicom known as Satellaview, and one of its most notable broadcast games was a variation on Legend of Zelda that we now come to know as BS The Legend of Zelda, or The Legend of Zelda BS, take your pick. BS standing for not what you might think it is, but Broadcast Satellaview. ROMs of the original broadcast have been around for quite a while, but due to the live nature of the game, they weren't fully functional without some hacking. Thankfully, nowadays one can find a repro cart of the first two maps of the broadcast, which were heavily inspired by the original Legend of Zelda. I'm using one of those repro carts here through my Retron 5. On first glance, the game actually looks like a 16-bit upgrade of the original. The map has been truncated quite a bit, meaning a number of points of note have been relocated, so the two maps are more like totally new quests based on the classic, with the added benefit of 16-bit visuals and sound. Those visuals and sound are pretty much what you'd expect. It looks like classic Zelda, just upgraded. It doesn't borrow too much in the way of visual assets from Link to the Past. If you ever wondered what it would look like if the original Legend of Zelda received this Super Mario All-Stars treatment, I think this is your answer. The visuals are fresh, but they're instantly familiar even if you haven't seen them before. If you're already familiar with the original Legend of Zelda, you already have a good idea of what to do and where to go. I feel as if the smaller map makes trial and error a little bit more forgiving, and if you already know some Zelda landmarks, you probably will be able to find your way around fairly easily. But due to the game being broken up over a series of live broadcasts, you can only go so far in a allotted amount of time. For example, the first week's broadcasted content would include the first two dungeons, the second would be the third and fourth, and so on until all 4 weeks were done. Certain objectives and certain secrets could only be found at certain points in time, and you can just miss things by not being there for the broadcast. Sections of the map will even be closed off to you until you finish the goals of a certain week's content. That said, if you go too fast, you'll be waiting around for things to happen, and if you take too long, you'll completely run out of time and lose the game no matter how far you've progressed. That part can be rather frustrating naturally. Taking into consideration how the game was originally broadcast, it does make sense that it was presented in this way. However, this is probably the biggest shortcoming when you come into this game now. Most of us are more than familiar with the original Legend of Zelda and how free you are to explore. Then being constrained by time really takes a lot away from the enjoyment for me. But since the game was part of a timed broadcast, it's a core part of the mechanics. Perhaps if I played it how it was intended back then, as a series of broadcasts over a couple of weeks, it would come off a bit more innovative, a bit more unique. However, playing it in the form of a repro cart, it seems like it's better left as an interesting curiosity. That's just my opinion, of course. You might feel totally different about that. The Zelda series has had way more hits than misses, if you ask me. I'm not calling this a miss, I'm just calling it an interesting footnote and not much else. If you can emulate it, sure, check it out. The presentation is really good, and it's kind of neat to see what the original Zelda would have looked like in 16-bit. But other than that, I really can't give it much of a recommendation. Now, think of your favorite franchise. Are there any weird footnotes, curiosities, spin-offs that are just off the beaten path? Something weird related to your favorite gaming franchise? Love to hear about it. Leave me a comment down below, tell me all about it. Love to hear from you. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Take care.